Man, if it's your first time here, welcome. If you've been hanging out with us for a long time, welcome back. Today, as some of you might be aware, it's a bit of a non-typical Sunday. I'll share a little bit more about that in a moment. But we still want to start by giving honor where honor is due. For those who are wanting and willing, would you please stand with me for the public reading of God's word as I read over us Acts chapter 9, verse 31. Acts chapter 9, verse 31. This verse is beautiful. So the church throughout all Judea and Galilee and Samaria had peace and was being built up. And walking in the fear of the Lord and the comfort of the Holy Spirit, it multiplied. Please be seated. Hey, if you are here in person, that means you literally endeavored through a monsoon. I respect that. Especially a bunch of y'all brought your kids, and I really, really respect that. I'm really excited though, in person or online, to share with you all some exciting news about what God is doing. Now, I told you at the beginning, this is a non-typical Sunday. Generally, when we gather here, what we do is we worship and praise through song. We will come together to the corporate teaching of God's word to try to understand what does God have for you and for me. Whether you are here and you are a follower of Jesus and you want to grow in deep affection with the God who made you, or you are here and maybe you're curious or interested, but honestly, you feel more hurt by God than seen by him. Whoever you are, what we generally do is we have the privilege through his word to get to know God and his desire and will for our life. Now, today, it's going to be different. Today's message is honestly a little bit more of a state of the union, if you will, than a typical and regular sermon. Now, I'm more of a Bible teacher by nature. But the reason we wanted to let you all know this is there's some things going on that we need to tell you about in a positive and exciting way. So if you're here for the first time, I want you to know today's different. We hope you come back, get to know us, hang out with us again. But we do think today does give you an exciting glimpse into our heart and what we believe God is doing in and through this church family. So most specifically, here's what I want to tell you about. Because I know some of you are on pins and needles waiting for this exciting announcement on what it could be. Queen Cobras are currently 4-2. Yeah. Now, if you're new, you're like, I have no idea what that means. Honestly, I coach a 7th grade soccer team as an assistant coach. We're 4-2. We lost 2. One of those I completely blame on me as a coach. The other one, it just happens. It's sports. That's shared. That's not the actual announcement. The actual announcement is, I'm going to share with you about our church family potentially finding a home. Specifically, I'm going to walk you through how and why the elders have decided to bring before our body an opportunity to purchase land. And then from that, construct a facility, or to use the language, a home. Now, you need to know that our language around this is extremely intentional. Here at the Springs, we are a New Testament local church, which means we are his bride, his body. We are the family of God, brothers and sisters. And from divine spiritual relationship, we want to walk in unity with one another. But to extend this metaphor, we are a spiritual family, with or without a house. What I mean by house is a facility, a long-term facility. We are a spiritual family, with or without a house. But every growing family seeks the privilege of a home. So, in our talk today, we're going to use Acts 9 more as a launch pad than an expositional text to try to wrestle through to see God. But in this State of the Union style message, I want to share with you about the opportunity we have for finding a home. I'm going to do this in 6 categories. Now, I've had the privilege of giving this talk 2 times so far, and the feedback has been consistent across them both. The first was in a run-through where I did just before the elders. That talk took me 1 hour and 10 minutes. Yeah. At the end of it, there were things we trimmed, but in general, we chose the essence, not to cut content. Here's what that means. Throughout this discussion of finding a home, we are going to overshare the details. Why? Our heart here at the Springs is honestly to operate like a family. And one of the things any family would do is they'd come together, they'd have a dinner table discussion, even with parents, kids, all that. They'd put everything on the table and honestly discuss it. We know that throughout this time, some of y'all, I'm telling you, it's happened twice. You're gonna get bored. The elders are aware. Most of y'all by the end of this will be like, I just don't care this much. Just tell me. That's what you're going to feel. But here's the thing. Some of y'all do care this much, and we care this much. So our heart is to honor the few while all have to listen. We'll do it in 6 sections. You'll hear about our heart, our limitations. What are the obstacles? Why are we even talking about this? Our vision, who must we be now and in the future? The options, like real plain, pragmatic reality. Here's the potential opportunities we have. The next, the opportunity before us. And then finally, your and my personal invitation of response. So with that, let us begin. Our heart. I first want to share this to reflect my heart, and through that, the heart of the elders. Anytime you come and you talk about land, facility, budgets, buildings, a whole bunch of different emotions come up. The first, if you've been here a while, perhaps you hear and your emotion in this is like you're already all in. Like all you want me to do is come up here and say, John, just tell me when, where, and how much. I've seen this coming. It's not surprising. Tell me when, where, and how much. You're definitely going to get bored and have to wait till the end. The second category, let's call this category not all in, but open, but curious. This is the audience member, perhaps you, the member or the serious attender. They're not opposed to this. You've seen this coming. You even have perhaps a sense of excitement and openness to it. But you're curious. You want to know, how did we get here? What has led to this thought and decision before us? And there's a third category. Much of the reason why we are going to overshare is to try and honor the third category. The third category represents those of us here who are cautious and honestly concerned. The moment that you knew we were talking about facilities or budget, a pit went in your stomach because through past experiences or present trials, you have endured hard situations through church capital campaigns or people in positions of leadership like myself and the elders who perhaps broken trust around the area of financial stewardship. And this place that you love, you now have a new sense of doubt or fear. We want to honor you. So again, some of y'all will care this much. We want to honor the some. Knowing that people represent all these emotions, again, we will intentionally over-communicate the details. The run-through went an hour and 10. I'm going to try to trim it down. Kids ministry was gracious to me last service, but we're going to see what happens. You'll also know my personality or wiring, I'm not as much of a read the notes guy. I'm more of a see where the Spirit takes it guy. Today, I'm going to try very hard to stay within these notes. Why? You have to know, as I speak, I'm not representing John. I'm representing the voice of the spiritual elders of this family. But knowing the context as we introduce this whole new topic, how have we approached it and where have we found comfort in it? I want to reference back to the verse we began with at the beginning, Acts 9:31. You have to hear, no matter what happens, we believe we walk in the comfort of the Holy Spirit. God brought our family here. He is the one to take us wherever he wants to go. His will be done. His kingdom come. We are his church. He is in charge. The elders and I do not feel our emotions tied to a certain outcome. Will we get the land? Will we build a facility? Where our heart is we want God. We believe this is the next right step from God. But he is who we are after. So you got to know, our goal here at the Springs has never been numerical growth. Our goal has been simple, and if you've been here, you've heard this repeatedly. We are after God, abiding with him, drawing near to him, keeping ourselves in the love of God, being built up in our most holy faith. As we approach this process, the elders do feel a sense of sobriety and responsibility around the process of how do we go as a body discerning unity. But the pressure of an outcome, by the grace of God, we feel none of that. He's God, we're not. That shared, we do believe God is doing something beautiful and special in our midst. And what do we mean by that? We are primarily speaking about not numerical growth, but the rate of life change we are experiencing. I could tell you story after story of people who God is transforming. That's why throughout this process, each week as you come in person or online, if you want to watch in there, you'll get a new story. Today you will leave with a story of our friends and members, Danny and Mandy Oldaney, about how God has used this family to bless them. That is what we are after. The American church does not need another big building. But man, if there was a body of believers that really wanted to get after it, That's who we are called to be, and we think a building can serve that end. So knowing where we find our comfort, you got to know the elders. We've had a lot of thoughts, discussions, some low-key arguments, some low-key conflict resolution, some thoughts, some discussions, a lot of prayer, fasting. You have to hear, we emphatically do believe that this is the right next step for our body. We believe that this opportunity has been gifted to us by God. I know that that is spiritually loaded language. I do not use that nor the elders in any way to spiritually manipulate. We'll talk about that in a moment. But not only do we feel that God has brought this to us, the second thing we feel, we also just think this consideration outside of spiritually seeking God is also just the next wise step. See, the role of leadership in any general is to care for the present while anticipating for the needs of the future. Wisdom would say this is the next wise step. So what does that mean for us as elders? We do not want to over-spiritualize this decision and come and use a bunch of spiritually charged language to say God has told us, therefore we must. We will not over-spiritualize it, but you too got to hear. We absolutely in unity all believe this is the next right step. But at the same time, we can't under-spiritualize this. God's God. His will be done. His kingdom come. So to remind you once again, the God who got us here, he has always been our strategy. He has to do this. His kingdom, his will. Now, we know that when talking about this is going to end with the prayerful response of our church family as we call you to radical generosity. Radical generosity, culture-defying generosity, church-defying generosity. Here's what we believe. God is in the business of releasing resources through his people. We trust him, the Holy Spirit in him, to work in and through your hearts. Second, you gotta know, I think a lot of times churches, topics like money, finances, budgets, giving, they're almost taboo or awkward. Understandably, sometimes people have been hurt by those processes, but it can create this almost like taboo sense or you shouldn't talk about it. You must know this. Part of a local church, led by the Spirit of God in accordance with his word, is we are going to straight up plainly talk about anything that is after your heart. From sexuality to hypocrisy and self-righteousness, to straight up greed, or a posture of financial stewardship and generosity. Wherever God leads you throughout this process, we'll trust God to lead you and us not to manipulate you. But we do want you to hear, anything that is after your heart will never be taboo or off limits here at the Springs. Why? Christ died for what is after my heart that kept me from him. We will come and address it as he would have us. So you got to hear, as elders, do we feel awkward talking about money? Not even a little bit. If anything, we're really excited to do it and get better at it. That leads us to a few final thoughts. Some of you, for the cynic in the room, and I respect the cynic, I understand it, you gotta know the Springs is in a very healthy financial position. None of this is in any way us asking you to financially bail us out. This will not impact our present. Everything I'm talking about today is all about our future. The second thing is there's an invitation to radical generosity. We also know many in our body just need help with biblical stewardship of what they currently already have. For so many of us, when it comes to thinking about our finances, it evokes more fear than it does faith. A ministry we have utilized as Financial Peace University. Throughout the process we'll put before you today, we will roll that out again. If you are a member here and you feel this tug, I wish I could be generous, but I'm overwhelmed by my credit card bill. We won't shame you. We want to help you. Not so you can come and give, but so you can learn that when Jesus says they will know the truth will set them free, he meant it. We care not just about generosity, but stewardship as well. And then, here's who I'm talking to, is we are calling you to financially partner with the Springs in prayer as God prompts. We're inviting those of you who are already committed here. Like, I'm talking to members today. I'm talking to you who are like seriously committed attenders and you're thinking about membership and you're probably gonna go, but your schedule keeps getting mixed up and we're the second Sunday of every month, we'd love to have you. That's who I'm talking to. If that's not you, we're so glad you get to listen. You might power nap during it. You might wanna show up at the end for the big reveal, but we're not talking to you. That takes us from an understanding of a heart to what's the problem we're facing? What are our limitations? Having heard our heart, you just got to hear some of the obstacles and the challenges that we're facing that have led to us consider even expanding to new land and facility. The first limitation, and it may be obvious if you've been here, but we are running out of room on Sundays. We are running out of room on Sundays. Let me show with you just a little graphics, because for those of us who are visual, hopefully this will help. Numerical attendance at the Springs. The Springs has grown 22% over the past year. Total adult attendance has grown 24%. Kids ministry has grown 18%. Now, we celebrate that. In a moment, I'll tell you why. That just references general growth. The next slide, this is the slide that myself, the elders, the members, our family, we particularly love. It shows the rate of our membership growth over the past year was 44%. God numerically grew adult growth by 24, but members by 44. Here's why that matters. It shows the difference between not just those who attend, which is beautiful, but those who actually deeply connect to the family. Now, the image on the right, as I explain this, you got to see what this image represents in the chart. This represents the conversion rate of adult attender to member. The column on the left for each year in column is the average number of adult attendees that year, while the column on the right is the average number of committed covenant members. This shows about what percentage of our attendees are taking faithful next steps towards membership. We love this data because it shows people aren't simply just coming on Sundays and hanging out. They are feeling called to join us in the deep waters of abiding with Jesus Christ through service, community, love. It means people are taking this wild and radical step to allow other people to have enough sacred trust in their life to where maybe, just maybe, they'll open up about the thing that's keeping them in shame. To where maybe, just maybe, they'll find another husband and say, I know I'm supposed to love my Bible, but I don't really know how. Will you show me how? This is why we love these numbers. So again, why do these numbers matter? They not only reflect the practical reality, we need some additional seats, but more importantly, lives that are being transformed by the grace of God, and we feel led to care for those folks. So having seen the current, we want to share with you a projected growth trend for the future. To understand this chart, you have to understand, again, that estimated growth trend line, the dotted line, that's that 22% we saw. We took, finding that 22% for the future, the most conservative approach to growth by simply looking at the most immediate present year. We have not gone 3 years past back and averaged it. We haven't done any of that. The solid black line that you see represents when this room is full based on feeling full. If you're new to church, do you remember the first time you walked through a church facility doors and had to wonder where to sit? Felt like everyone had someone to talk to, and you just felt unseen, unnoticed, and unwanted. When rooms feel full, people feel left out. What this data shows that as of this fall, we'll need to go to 3 services. We have a plan for how we can address this, but we wanted to share with you, this is just the practical reality. Again, it's based on a conservative estimate. We need to do something about space and ideally about it soon. The second limitation, there's Sunday morning growth. The second limitation we are facing, we are out of room for discipleship during the week. Right now, our facility, this gym, we rent this gym every day of the week. The other side of McKenna, we rent Sunday mornings. That's what we do. This side of the gym is utilized every day of the week throughout all the parts of the day, except for Fridays and Saturdays. We have asked McKenna, our partners and our friends at McKenna, for more space during the week, but they're not comfortable with offering it. Here's why. McKenna, they are amazing partners. They love us, we love them. They shared, though, that if they continue to rent out space to us during the midweek at the rate that we're currently asking for it, they'll end up being unavailable to rent it out to anyone else during the week. They'll no longer be an event center for the city. They'll be an event center solely for Springs Community Church. Now, I love that. I want every night of the week whole thing. Why? Because this represents recovery, marriage restoration, students, young adults. First time I heard that maybe God could love me was at a young adult gathering on a Tuesday. First time I saw you could walk in grace and forgiveness was at a recovery gathering on a Monday. First time I learned what it looked like to walk in community with other men was on a Wednesday. First time a man sat me down and taught me how to read a Bible was on a Thursday. That's what we're after. They won't give us any more space, and we understand it. The lack of facility space for expansion for a heart of discipleship is beginning to impact our desires to care for people throughout the week. Even if it's just a plain and simple pastoral care meeting with a staff or a lay leader. We are out of space. Our team has exhausted not only every square inch of this facility, but we have worn out every coffee shop in this city. Like, it is not uncommon for like a staff member for a sense of privacy to be like taking a phone call on the stage, like right here. While there's a meeting circled up over there, just chairs circled up, background music to cover it, two staff talking at a big white table, another meeting taking place at blue couches, folks outside, and then maybe people in that front entranceway, and then a staff member outside making a phone call. Don't get me wrong, we are not above it. As you come and you leave today, we are asking all of you to literally go behind the curtain. Go see where for 3 years our staff has officed, served, and shepherded. We aren't above it. But man, I'm telling you, it's creating a constraint now. It's no longer cool to be, if you go back there, I think it's like a blend of church meets startup Silicon Valley. Other staff members don't really think that, but I'm down for it. But that's where we are. The next thing why this is hurting us, we're having to say no to new discipleship opportunities. Recently, we launched a marriage ministry, Re-Engage here. We're piloting it. We ran out of space here. We spent weeks trying to find a facility. We eventually, though, by the grace of God, our dear friends at First Baptist, we called them, same day, they walked us over there and said, you can have all this space on a Thursday. Blessings to First Baptist. And we love that. Second one, though, where we've had to turn ministries away, we had to cancel a Christian theology class and move it to the fall because there was no space for it. We were no longer allowed to do what we did last year, which was offer One Hope, foster care and adoption, a day and then a weekend of training for families willing to commit to such a beautiful and godly sacrifice. We want to do those things. The other thing is childcare. Because McKenna won't give us more space, we have had to stop offering childcare at some of our support ministries. Most recently, if you came to our night of worship, we weren't able to offer it. Now, we are not saying every family has to take advantage of childcare. But for young families, single parents, we want them to have that option. We want them to feel like we have prepared for them, where they are invited, that their barrier to entry is low for those who want to take advantage of it. Finally, why this is a problem? We are out of space for any future opportunities or ministries. Who knows what God might have? So to recap, we are limited Sundays as well as Mondays through Saturdays. That takes us to the vision. Regardless of the limitations, here's who we must be. Now you gotta know, while ultimately limitations, they will not keep us ultimately from advancing the kingdom of God and the vision that God has placed in our hearts. While they ultimately won't keep us, they absolutely do hinder. They're obstacles, not only to what we feel called to in the present, but also for the future. Do you remember the verse, Acts 9:31? So throughout all Judea and Galilee and Samaria, the church had peace and was being built up. Walking in the fear of the Lord and the comfort of the Holy Spirit, it multiplied. I want to spend a few moments resonating on what this verse means for who we are, who we have been, and who we must continue to become more and more of. This verse is full of what seems like apparent tension. Right? Do you remember? The church is marked by peace and being built up. Well, if you got peace, you're content and you're good. But being built up, that's excel still more. Apparent tension. Or the next line, if you remember the movement of the text. The next line says, and the church walking in the fear of the Lord and the comfort of the Holy Spirit. Fear? Comfort? See, this verse might seem like apparent attention, but if you are a follower of Christ, you know this is the perfect mystery of the journey with God, where you come and we as a family are marked by peace, shalom, relational love, and unity. Christ died for us. He rose for us. By faith and faith alone, we are forgiven and we are free. And from that love, we radically pursue relational love and unity with one another. Peace, contentment, it is good, as well as being built up. Maturity, edification, becoming more and more with Christ, looking like Christ. It's this tension of like contentedness in God and holy ambition. We are all about both. The second one, I love it, walking in the fear of the Lord. Fear of the Lord, it's often misunderstood. We talk about it here often. It means this reverence, prioritization. God's God, I'm not. He is my first secure affection and attachment. He is the king of my heart. I don't sing it, I live it. But he is God, and I am not. His will be done. His kingdom come. Not my will, not my kingdom. The fear of the Lord, and then the beauty, the comfort of the Holy Spirit. The promise of God that on this journey, this wild adventure of faith, that he so wants to be with us, to be for us, to bless us. He is with us. He is in us. He does this. Those are the responsibilities of the church. And then in response to that, what do we see? It multiplied. Now you have to hear, myself, the elders, we do believe that both healthy, and hear this, unhealthy churches grow. But we do believe by God's mercy and his mercy alone, here at the Springs, he knows he has our heart. What do we mean by that? That we are not a perfect church. I'm not a perfect pastor. We are not perfect elders. This is not a perfect place. But in our imperfections, we want him. We really do want to be with him, to walk with him. Not just in eternity, man. By his grace, we are dragging heaven into our everyday reality. I'm not waiting. This is a vision for who we are, but also, with or without a building, who we must always be. Numerical growth has never been the goal of this church family. But you're also going to know, we don't feel bad about it. We are grateful. What we feel is a sacred responsibility to steward it. So while we will strive, we want to accomplish this vision with or without a long-term home. We do think a facility will help us. Like think about even the principles we saw. Peace, built up, fear of the Lord, comfort of the Holy Spirit. Think about peace. Right now, there is no environment where we can train community groups on conflict resolution or pastoral care meetings that is available to us. Built up. We have no space right now where we could launch an extra discipleship environment or equipping room where we can train people to love God's word, know it, search it, examine it, apply it to their soul, and learn to discern the voice of God through it. Fear of the Lord. We are running out of space to disciple this church family or to reach this city. Because what's true of this city, the average person is very over-churched, and under-discipled. That's not an indictment on anywhere except here. We have to actually train men and women, sons and daughters, to know, love, and follow the King. That's a real thing. And then finally, comfort of the Holy Spirit. We have a responsibility to train you to know that you are actually loved. That by faith and faith alone, if you believe, you really are fully forgiven. That you do not work for any form of identity or validation from God. You don't work for that. You work from it. We've run out of space. Tell people. We feel called to not just improve the quality of current ministries, but Lord willing to add more. And finally, we believe the best days are ahead. I believe that. You want to hear the caveat though? Serious caveat. If we stay faithful, the best days are ahead. The Apostle Paul, he uses language, you who are standing, take heed lest you fall. So church, for us, what is the invitation and the rhythm? Well, we believe this is right for the future. Our present everyday reality is, Lord, your kingdom come. Your will be done. You are who we want. That is who we are, and that is who we must always be. That takes us to our options. You're halfway through. You're halfway through. You still with me? Still with me? Okay, halfway through. Our options. This is where, again, a bunch of y'all are like, okay, I love the vision, just tell me. I don't care about all the details. Well, some of you do, and I do, so we're gonna over-communicate. Reminder of that. So thinking about our options. Knowing that we're growing, we're facing these limitations, the elders have been evaluating all kinds of different potential options, and I'll share them with you. Before we go to share the details of these, I do want to frame up a wisdom verse for us all. Proverbs 25:2 says this, the glory of God is to conceal things, but the glory of kings or queens, right there it's meaning spiritual leaders, the glory of leaders is to search things out. What does this mean? This means that you don't always see clearly. Full 2020. But we are doing our best to prayerfully consider all of our options. That's why, out of an abundance of that heart, we want to share them with you. So what are these? Our first option, okay, there's some growth issues. Why not just keep doing what y'all have already been doing? Keep simply adding Sunday services to support the growth. We did this, if you're with us, in 2022. We could do it again in 2024. You got to hear, while we as the elders are not entirely opposed to this, we do think it brings a lot of negative, unintended obstacles. The first one, in order to accomplish this, we would significantly have to change our order of service. Right now, we gather for an hour and a half. In order to accomplish 3 services in a way that would relieve some of our constraints and pinch points, we'd have to cut that service time likely down to an hour. Now, while we think we could trim up parts of it, maybe 10 minutes here or there, it would still lead to having significantly cut songs, sermon length, and the style that we feel led in communion. We do not feel led to this option. We feel it changes too much the heart of who we are. The second concern, by adding additional services, this will alleviate our adult growth issues, but it will not alleviate our kids' ministry growth issues. If you've journeyed with us, much of the reason for the growth has been in kids' ministry is God is sending young families. So by adding additional services, here's the way you need to think about this. It would be more about reaching a new community than it would be relieving our current spiritual family. Specifically, how does that look? It's highly unlikely if we added services later into a Sunday, perhaps even early on a Sunday or on a Saturday, that the families that particular feel the pinch point in kids ministry will adjust to those times. It's not because they don't love us, it's because it's convenient for young families to come in the natural rhythm of their kids. So it'll be about reaching. Our immediate problem is relieving, or I should say limitation. Third concern, adding services is totally doable. It really does just add a different level of strain, not just on staff, but on volunteers. It would disrupt the natural work one, worship one, which is something we can do, but it is an added strain. And the fourth, adding an additional Sunday service, it will not help us create space Monday through Saturday. See, if numerically Sunday grows, our heart here at the Springs is discipleship invitations all throughout the week, Monday through Saturday, would be there to support continually. If Sunday grows, we are out of space to continue to add and support the discipleship Monday through Saturday. We care about both. There's better Sundays you can go to, man. If a Sunday gathering for you, the way I've heard it described, is basically like a hobby, it's something you do, you show up to, but it really doesn't have your heart. It really doesn't engage the soul. I've loved this saying, there are way better hobbies. I heard a pastor once say, go buy a boat. And I remember thinking, it's like, I can't afford a boat, right? But here's what we mean. We will never be a Sunday-centric place. Why? God is after the heart. He doesn't want parts of you. He doesn't want part of your schedule. He wants all of you. So in summary, additional services we do view as a short-term solution if there's a long-term sustainable option coming. Second option, that's the one that's probably the most details. Second option, well, why don't we plant another church or launch a satellite campus to alleviate some of the constraints created by the growth? Now, if you're like me and you've come from perhaps a background of like a mega church discipleship model, thinking about the Springs launching a church plant or a satellite might seem silly, but here's what you know. The average church plant in America grows to be approximately 75 people. Satellite campuses are launched when usually you have enough of a community coming from another city, approximately 20 minutes away. Research more recently shows it's got to be further than 20 minutes away. People will drive. Here at the Springs, 90% of our members and attenders are coming from 2 zip codes, 78130, 78132. So either through a church plant or a satellite, that is more about reaching a new community than it is relieving the constraints on our current church family. Now, while the Springs would love to consider initiatives like church planting and things like that for the future, at this point, a church plant nor satellite campus would alleviate any of the growth issues. And it's likely very expensive. Third option. Can't we just buy McKenna? We love this place. We love the location. Just buy McKenna. We have heard you. We've loved our partnership with McKenna. We've loved the location. However, despite how much they enjoy partnering us, McKenna has made it abundantly clear, and we have asked multiple times, that they have no interest in selling us this property now or in the future. So much so, it's like, stop asking. McKenna's not an option. Fourth, is there another church location that we could partner with and graciously revitalize to where we could join them in their family and join the spiritual, or join them in their facility and join them in a spiritual family? As of now, there are no available churches with this need that would meet our current size and scale requirements. Fifth option, have you considered doing nothing and being okay with it? Have you considered doing nothing and being okay with it? The honest answer is yes. I call it the first in, first out strategy. Here's the thing though, probably doesn't surprise you. While we did consider it, we do not think we are biblically free to do this. The local church is meant to be a family of devotion to God. God is looking for families of devotion at the Springs, across the city, across the globe. God is looking for families of devotion. To use the language of Acts 2, to add his people to. To add. Our responsibility is devotion. God's role is the addition. But we feel, if God is continuing to entrust people to our care, we feel a sacred responsibility to care for them as best we can. But oftentimes what's in this, for some of us, is this feeling, I really miss the days when the Springs was my small, tiny, local church with a big family feel. The elders honor those of us who feel like we are losing a sense of that small, tiny church. There's something beautiful about knowing everyone, all being in one service and building those deep connections where you're truly known, truly loved. We understand how there may be some of you who feel an excitement for the future, but at the same time, a sense of grief over missing the past. Here's what you have to know that was in our heart then, that's still in our heart now. There was a time where I knew every single person at the Springs, the leaders, the trustees, the elders. They knew every single story. It was beautiful. And as a relational human being, I loved that season. However, I can remember around 100 people, that was no longer possible. While it is no longer possible for everyone to be known by everyone, our desire for people is that they be fully known and fully loved. And that desire here has not gone down. It has actually never been higher. Yes, you cannot be known by everyone at the Springs, but everyone can and must be known by someone and someones. And I believe, the elders believe, our church family is more prepared and discipled than ever to love people as God loves them. So regardless of numerical growth, relational love is one of the foundational markers of our church family. It has to stay that way. No matter what the future entails, this is who we must be. And a final note, if you're still in the, man, why don't we just stop letting people in? If you were with us over the past, I don't know whatever. If you were with us the past 6 months, you might remember, it was like 4 months ago, somebody reminded me of this. There were like 3 Sundays in a row we were starting to feel a constraint. We had to add chairs and all that stuff. And 3 Sundays in a row, I kept saying, hey, if you're not gonna commit here, give up your chair because we need it. I was kindly saying leave, right? So much so, some of y'all came, and like week 3, you're like, John, it's too much. It's too much. Okay, first off, you might have been right, okay? Might have been right. Second off, I tried telling people to leave. It didn't work. It didn't work. So we will care for those whom God has sent. So our options to recap: adding services, plant a church or a satellite, purchase a McKenna, revitalize another church, do nothing, turn folks away. These options are either more about reach than relief, or simply, biblically, they are not an option. With those things considered, I want to share with you our opportunity. Our opportunity. Now, as we come to addressing the opportunity, you got to know, I'm going to break this out into 2 sections. There's a short-term solution, and then it's the long-term opportunity that we're really here for. The short-term solution. Let me start by sharing that. This is a decision that the elders have already made. We have committed to alleviate some of our immediate growth constraints. The first thing that you should know, it's already happened. We moved from 9 and 11 as our service times to 8:30 and 10:30. This has so far been a wonderful success. It has balanced out our kids' ministry growth problems to be approximately 50-50 when it used to be around 70-30. This decision likely kept us from having to go to 3 services in August. Our next short-term solution that's of more impact to all of us is simply this. We are going to rent the available space across the street to expand our ministries. You could see it right here. If you are in person, you walk out these doors, look to the left of Church's Chicken, and you're like, oh, the sketchy looking abandoned building across the street that used to be a hair salon? Yeah, that's it. I shouldn't say sketchy. We're grateful and excited, okay? That's my bad. If the landowner listens to this, my bad, man. My bad. We are grateful. Now, you might be thinking, wait a minute, man. All this buildup and you're just going to rent that? Do it, of course. That's the easiest decision in the world. Why are we talking about this? Stay with me. Just wait. There's more. But we want to tell you about it. Why are we going to secure that facility? Quickly. This will allow us to move the curtains back even more to add an additional 100 chairs for sustained adult growth. It will provide us, most importantly, another environment for midweek discipleship. All those constraints, we will have another space. It'll also allow staff and leaders a place of gathering and shepherding, support, and care. And then the obvious part, that location is uniquely beneficial because it's already so close to McKenna. So let me break down not only the picture of the facility, but let me share with you a floor plan. This floor plan designates our heart. You'll see there's one wall that's dedicated to offices. You might be thinking, I wonder if they're gonna have really nice offices. They're gonna be full of desks from IKEA as we just pile them in there and hopefully they all fit. The next space you'll see, there's 4 meeting rooms. Why? We really do care about life change, stories, unity, peace, love. And then we'll have 1 space for a mid-sized gathering where we could connect. In the back, we are hoping to put in a playground to support childcare and families who want to connect and hang out throughout the week. Here's the breakdown. It's 4,675 square feet. This includes the bottom floor of 4,000 square feet and an upstairs of 675. The net construction cost to basically renovate and fix the facility is $200,000. The monthly rent we are committing our body to is $8,700 for 5 years. We'll have an option to continue more, but $8,700 for 5 years. When is the expected completion of construction and move-in date, and we could do all this? We believe in 6 months. We are so excited to expand this as it secures discipleship ministry for the next 5 years. It will relieve many of our immediate space constraints and will ensure that we don't have to go to 3 services this fall. Next opportunity, short-term solution. Long-term opportunity. I'll share this. Y'all with me? This is probably the part some of y'all care about, okay? You should pay attention again. So if you checked out, come back. We got you. It's home stretch. We can do this. We're going to share it in 2 phases. Phase 1, land acquisition. Phase 2, facility construction. Let's start with phase 1. Phase 1 of our opportunity and invitation is acquiring land for a future facility. We have the opportunity to purchase 18 acres of land by combining 2 properties. The first property is 10 acres, the second is 8. Let me share with you visually by walking through this with some photos. That way we're all on the same page. The first photo before you, this is just a graphic of New Braunfels that I imagine many of us are very familiar with. The second, you'll designate and you'll see a star. That's McKenna. That's where we are physically gathered in person this morning. The property that we are considering is at the next star. It is located at the corner of River Road and the Loop. River Road and the Loop. It's on the northwest corner of River Road and the Loop. Now we want to share with you a more zoomed in photo of that area of land. This includes the part we're looking at as well as the surrounding area. The first picture that I want to show you, this designates 10 acres. 10 acres on the hard corner of River Road and the Loop. A member of our body came to us with this land, and in a spirit of generosity was willing to offer it to us at a price we had to seriously consider. Now you must know, these 10 acres, it might seem strange, this land alone though is not enough. Even though 10 acres, it's set up on a hill, it's beautiful, but Lord willing, if we were to one day put a facility there, we would have to invest a significant amount of resources to move dirt for things like parking or facility expansion. That would lead to more costs, so we had to consider a second set of land. The final photo takes us to the second section of 8 acres. This would be surrounding the property. This additional 8 acres of land we've negotiated and secured with our friends over at Veramendi this week. These 8 acres that allow easy access for things like parking, as well as Lord willing expansion if God ever sees fit. Now I know what you're thinking. All right, cool, land. How much does it cost? I get it. Having seen the land, let's look at the financial implications for purchasing it. The total cost of these 18 combined acres comes to $8 million. $8 million. Some people are like, here's what you should know from the elders. Someone asked me, because they got an email and they knew what could be coming. I was like, man, do you feel pressure? Like the elders, do y'all feel pressure? The elders feel a responsibility over the stewardship of this process with our church body. We're going to take 8 weeks to pray through this. We feel a responsibility over the process. We got zero pressure over the outcome. God is God. His kingdom come, his will be done. We say it, and by his grace, we mean it. How does that 8 million break down? 4.5 million go for 10 acres on the hard corner of River Road and the Loop. 3 million go to the 8 acres supporting it. $500,000 we anticipate for things like site fees, development fees, construction designs, etc. That brings it to a total of $8 million. Phase 1, land acquisition. You want to hear about phase 2? It doesn't matter, I'm going to tell you. Having seen the location and the cost of phase 1, let me show you an estimate of phase 2 facility construction. Based on the best research we can find, we estimate a facility costing between $15 to $20 million. $15 to $20 million. Now, this number is obviously subject to change based on the needs of our body, fluctuating market rates, but this is a reasonable estimate. Now, a bunch of y'all are thinking, why are you even showing us phase 2? We got to afford phase 1 before we go for phase 2. We totally agree with you, but here's why. There's no point in purchasing a lot if you can't afford to build a home on it. The Springs is not looking for an investment property. We are not looking for an asset that we can accrue and then one day later sell. We are looking for a home. The second reason, we want you to see this with a long-term vision. This is meant to be a home for generations. See, as a small, independent, non-denominational church, we have a tendency to wrestle with lacking long-term vision for a church that sustains in health for Decades. We have to think about this in terms of decades and generations to come, not simply dollar signs and what is right for those of us here now. We are looking for a facility to act as a home to where men, women, sons, and daughters can come to know, walk with, love, and lead in strength to the glory of God. This is meant to be a beautiful place for a city on a hill for generations, to where, Lord willing, your kids, your grandkids can faithfully come and gather without fear of if the government ever says that the church is no longer for good. What that would mean is all giving will then no longer be tax deductible. That churches will be charged property taxes because it's no longer for the good of the common person. But a place of security where we could gather and become more and more like God. You have to think about it with a long-term vision. That's why we are sharing with you phase 2. Here's what you need to know as well. By God's grace, we are already 25% of our way towards meeting our phase 1 goal. The Springs has $1 million in cash that has been set aside that can go towards this project. In addition to that, a member of our body, unprompted by us, noticed the constraint, came to us and saying, I will donate $1 million. That takes the total requirement that we are asking God to bring us to $6 million. You have to hear, we do not want to build another building for the sake of another church building. There's plenty. We want to advance the kingdom of God. We have grown as a family, and we are grateful for that. If anything, we feel the weight and the privilege and the responsibility that comes with it. God is doing amazing things, and we believe he's only getting started. If we stay faithful, I actually believe the best days are ahead of us, where it really could be imperfect, but glorious, where those who love God can come to be trained to love him more deeply, and those who hate him or hate his people can at least come and find folks and have a spirit of saying, well, hey, if someone's got to get after it, I'm glad that someone is you. That is who we are called to be. As of Friday this week, we entered a 90-day feasibility study with the Veramendi property where we get to consider it. This means we can walk away at any time for any reason, and the only cost to our body is approximately $1,000. Why did we enter into this? We had to do it to secure the property, to examine it, as well as second, to speak about it publicly, to give this invitation. So to recap, phase 1, raising $6 million for land acquisition, and then move into phase 2, facility construction. That's the big reveal. You're welcome. Yeah. I am enjoying this. I do love teaching the Bible, though. It's more, here's the invitation. For those of you who, again, call this your church home, right? If that's not you, I'm not talking to you. Please be free. There's zero spiritual manipulation. Our God's never broke. We don't need your money. For those of you who do, though, call it a church home, here's the invitation we are extending to you all. During this 90-day feasibility study, here's what we're asking our body to commit to over the next 8 weeks. We are taking the next 8 weeks together. We are asking you to pray, share, and as prompted by God, give. Knowing we're calling you to pray, share, and give practically, here's ways you can do it. Pray. For the next 2 months, join us each Wednesday in prayer and fasting over this decision. You have to know the elders do feel we have clarity from God. This is the right next step. It's why we're bringing it before us. But with our clarity, we want to operate in sacred unity. Would you please join us in prayerfully seeking God in this? We are a family. Pray that if this is not God's will, that God would make it abundantly clear. Pray that he would lead us where he wants us, and we trust him no matter what. So you got to know, what is the heart of the elders? What is our goal over these next 8 weeks or 2 months? If our body sincerely and prayerfully seeks the heart of God, his will for our body, that is a win. Whether we purchase the land and begin the facility or not, if we seek him, it's who we got to be. That really is in our heart. And I'm not kidding. Share share. We've created multiple ways for how you can connect with us throughout these 2 months. We want you to please share with us your excitement, your hope, your dreams, as well as your questions, your comments, or your straight up concerns. Again, we know that this news hits people in all areas, the all in, the open but curious, as well as the cautious and concerned. I pray the pit in your stomach, it's a little less, but I know for some, it's still there. We honor you. Whoever you are, if we're your church home, your voice matters. Please believe us when we say we want to hear it. How could we do that? You can go to our website to learn more about all of this, or we've added a section about finding home there. You can send us an email letting us know any question, concern, celebration, anything you want. You can send it at findinghome@springsandb.org. We will answer questions from there weekly. We are going to host a public Q&A with all of the elders. The scheduling we're navigating because we have a hard time finding space in a facility. That's the legit reason. We'll do that sometime soon here where any question can be asked. And then right here, you'll see we have a QR code. These are for what we're just calling meetings. Here's what we mean. We really think about meetings in terms of 3 levels. The first is house meeting, community group, and then one-on-one, whatever. House meeting. Man, if you're a member of the Springs, your community group, and you got friends that go to the Springs, you want to invite your friends, throw a potluck. Do something fun. I'll bring my own dinner. Our elders, our leaders, our folks, we will show up. Let's have some food. Let's break some bread. And then whatever questions you guys have, we'll answer anything. House meetings, we are open to. We won't force our way into every home. But if you invite us, it would be our privilege to share more with you. The second, if you're in a community groups, if you want to meet, share, tell us, we will come. Third, let's say you want to share a more individual, a more personal conversation. We will be there. We have taken steps to create margin and flexibility in the schedule of our leaders to care and meet with our people. We want our actions to reflect our heart. Finally, give. We've created a giving platform to receive both cash donations as well as 2-year pledges. So here's what we mean. From your time of prayer, feeling prompted and led by God, we're calling our body to give over and above their standard tithe to go towards this opportunity. Again, we're a family with or without a long-term facility, but we are unapologetically after a home. This is an amazing opportunity that we're excited about. In prayer before God, go meet with him. There's beautiful text, the treasure principle, the spirit of fundraising, gospel patrons. These are beautiful books for discipling a soul and how you should think about righteous stewardship. Sections like Matthew 6 are wonderful texts to pray through. 2 Corinthians chapter 9 are wonderful places to pray through. You meet with God. We believe his spirit is in you. We trust his spirit to move in and through you. So how could you give? In 2 ways. The first is cash donations. You can give in any of the ways you usually give to the Springs. If you give online, be sure to go and select Finding a Home. That's the building fund in a drop-down link, so your donation will go directly to this project. If you give by cash or check, please include a note, or on the check, please write Finding a Home or Building Fund. If you have questions, again, you can reach out to us at findinghome@springsandb.org. That takes us to pledge commitments. We're accepting pledge commitments for the next 2 years. So to be explicitly clear, we as a church family, we have 8 weeks. You have 8 weeks to let us know what you can give in either cash right now or pledge to give over the next 2 years. For example, I know what Taylor and I can give right now. But within the next 8 weeks, we as a family have to prayerfully discern what can we give as a family over and above as God leads us towards this. The way we will do that is through a pledge commitment. To do a pledge commitment, you go online, you fill out a form. We'll take your submission, and then to make sure we have clarity with you, we will create a pledge letter and ask you to sign it. Why will we do that? To make sure it's clear, and so a high schooler in here doesn't act like they have money when they don't. You know what I'm talking about? Y'all remember being a high schooler? Guess not, just me. I made bad decisions. Y'all were great, don't believe it. That takes us to, how do we know if this is a go or a no-go decision? What determines if this happens or not? And when do we find out? Hear me. If after prayerful consideration over these next 8 weeks, we receive about $6 million or more from our body between cash donations and pledge commitments, we'll move forward and we will purchase the land. If the resources come in, we'll take that as God's confirmation unless he comes through the eldership of this body, tells us here's why we shouldn't, and then we'll tell you. We do not anticipate that. We believe this is the next step, but we will follow God no matter what. If we receive God's confirmation through about $6 million coming in, we'll then move directly into phase 2 of the project, which again will be the design and construction of the facility. If by God's grace, we're given more than $6 million, all additional giving will go directly to phase 2. We do not want to hold on to land, Lord willing, for a long time. We need a home. However, if the Lord resources us with less than about $6 million, we won't purchase the land. We'll take that as God's confirming sign that this property is not right for us or not right for us right now. All the cash donations given will be set aside for the future to help us resolve these same facility constraints. But if we don't purchase the land, those who have made pledge commitments, you are fully released from them. You don't have to send any of that. However, if you still feel prompted by God in a pledge commitment to give to that, all of those resources will go towards a future facility solution. So when will we tell you whether this is a go or a no-go? We will notify the body of the results 8 weeks from today, Sunday, June 23rd. Sunday, June 23rd. What will we do on that day? We will spend that day discipling our hearts of what it means to be a local church and a spiritual family with or without a long-term secured facility. One question you might be considering, what about debt? What about debt? Have you considered debt? Here's where we are. The elders, we are not morally opposed to debt, but we don't feel led to utilize it as a tool at this point. See, while debt is a tool that Scripture does warn against, it's ultimately morally neutral. So if the Springs were to ever utilize debt, it would only be for a reasonable, sustainable amount. That shared, at this point, we do not feel led to take on any debt for phase 1 land acquisitions. Why not? Seems like a great location. You're not morally opposed. Why not go get some debt? Well, let me show you. Fair question. First, walk me through this to remind you, the Springs numerically grew 22% last year. Also, when it comes to giving, the annual giving of the Springs is set to be 1% less than giving last year. Our expected giving has gone down. Though numerically we have grown 22%, our giving has gone down. Now you should know, well, what's our present cash flow situation? That's a reasonable question if you're a member here. Average monthly donations and generosity are approximately $162,000. Our average monthly expenses are $121,000. That means, including year-end giving, where there is an absolute influx, we are netting approximately $41,000 a month in extra cash flow. The elders at this point feel led to put that monthly net donations towards facility across the street, as well as securing additional staff. Why? We want to improve and continue our ability to bring a high level of discipleship and care to our body. And we are fully aware there are some places we need to bring a higher level of care. While we do feel we are maximizing our lay leaders, it is clear that there are a few positions that have demonstrated we have some key roles that must be filled by full-time, high-talent, faithful leaders. Why should this matter? We don't want to go just get debt so we can get a building. While debt's not wrong, it's not right for us right now. We really do care more about being healthy than getting big. We want our decisions to reflect our heart. So instead of putting $41,000 towards debt, we're going to make a place to secure discipleship for families for 5 years. And then full-time, high-talent, gifted pastors to shepherd souls more and more to be like Jesus. That is where we feel led. The elders believe this is the right next step. But we want to move forward in unity as a church. That does not mean unanimous. Some of you, because of your past experiences, or maybe even where God leads you, He will not free you to be generous towards this endeavor. We honor anyone willing to go before God. We'll meet with you. but we will not spiritually manipulate a soul. God is God. His kingdom come. His will be done. All the pressure is on him. And I mean that in a gloriously honoring way. In the short term, to remind you, we are moving forward by trying to relieve our immediate space issues by leasing and renovating the building across the street. The opportunity I placed before you, it's 2 phases. Phase 1, raising $6 million over the course of the next 8 weeks through cash donations and pledges to be paid over 2 years to purchasing 18 acres of land. Lord willing, upon completion of phase 1, we would move toward phase 2, which is the planning, design, and construction of a long-term home for our church family. The elders and I spent a lot of time thinking, praying, and asking God about this. I can remember at the beginning of this, the privilege, right? As an elder team, we've never done this before. The privilege of a sense of that responsibility, feeling the weight of it. And it almost felt like this was this whole new endeavor, this whole new big, massive thing. And in the mercy of God in my soul and in us, he real quickly showed that's not true. I want to show you guys a picture. This is Springs Community Church, back when Springs Community Church was on the other side of the ballroom. What's fascinating is this photo came about actually years after its inception. See, this church family started with 10 couples pleading on Sunday evenings to see a move of God through the local church where they could combine the truth of God's word with radical life change, walking with his spirit. They wanted to see it and they pled with him. They would invite some friends. From that living room, they would have to go to create more space so more friends could come and know the same vision and love, walking in the fear of the Lord and the comfort of the Holy Spirit. They had to go from there to T-Bar M to get some space. Once they could no longer secure space at T-Bar M, they went from there to a doctor's office. The adult gathering was in one waiting room. Kids ministry was in another waiting room. From there, they would continue inviting friends. They would have to find a way to make space, peace, built up. And they would rent that ballroom, and I could remember summer 2017 showing up into that ballroom. Walking in the fear of the Lord and the comfort of the Holy Spirit. I could remember the privilege of that ballroom. There were these chairs right there in the middle. I could remember the first week we had to add some more chairs. I remember another week we had to add a few more chairs. I can remember the week we had to add lights, and we got a stage. Wild stuff, y'all. Wild stuff. I can remember when we had the opportunity one Sunday where we just came over here to gather. We got these 8-foot high curtains. They were paper thin. We did a service where worship and a sermon. We were inside of a tin box. It sounded like noise was bouncing off everything in here. Fear of the Lord, comfort of the Holy Spirit. I can remember the day we could afford to get curtains to make it to where you could tolerate the audible noise, especially when I yelled. I can remember we put a curtain right here in the middle. I can remember we had to move that curtain back one time. I remember we had to move it back another time. And I remember we moved it all the way back. I can remember the time we didn't have carpet and we came here in a night of worship and this floor was soaked in prayer. And we put carpet in because we had to cover all the grape juice stains from communion. It's glorious. God mercifully showed it's not a new endeavor. It's just the next chapter. Church, here's what you got to hear though. He is who we want. We have 8 weeks to prayerfully discern in unity before him, your kingdom come, your will be done. No matter the outcome, he is who we want. That's shared. We really do pray you take this journey with us. Let me pray as the elders come up and we close in the act of worship through communion. Father, I thank you for the joy of this and the gift of the time. I thank you for how we get to come and gather around such a beautiful invitation and sacred moment. Holy Spirit, even us as leaders, search us, know us, try us. See if there be any grievous way in us, and lead us in your way everlasting. If we are for this for a sense of a building and not to shepherd your body, expose it, illuminate it. Put a beautiful conviction on us. But God, I really do believe you have our heart. We're not perfect, far from it. But we want you. Would you do what only you can do? Bring your kingdom as you see fit. It's in your name we pray. Amen.